Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо.
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and the topic of the next event is successes and challenges of Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. And our speakers are Ivanna, Klympush-Tsintsadze, Vice Prime Minister on European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine, also Olena Zerkal, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine for European integration, and Nataliya Mykolska, Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, Trade Representative of Ukraine. Welcome on stage, dear colleagues.
Добрий день, шановні.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about implementation of our plans, about implementation of our obligations concerning Euro-Atlantic and European integration during the previous year. I will start with Euro-Atlantic integration, and then I'm going to speak about European integration, and my colleagues will tell you about European integration in more detail. And we will speak about our results and our plans for 2017. The year was not simple, and I greet all diplomats. And I would like to say that we need more efforts in this area. So we wish them success, and we hope for further cooperation with them. As to our achievements concerning Euro-Atlantic integration this year, we started first in 2015, but the majority of documents were adopted in 2016, and we completed strategic planning and adopted strategic documents in defense sphere and security sphere. Strategic defense bulletin was adopted, and also the development and adoption of the program concerning defense, the plan that will last until 2020, and we have real plans, real goals, and step-by-step program that we will implement further. And in this context, now we work on the new document of annual program of cooperation with NATO that will be built on another principle that was done previously during the last years of this program. And it won't be just a list of joint events of the ministry together with agencies or representatives of some NATO programs, but it will include all those plans I've mentioned concerning reform of defense sphere, broader reforms connected with all the areas of our life and our development, so democratization of all directions. This year, at the summit of NATO, they adopted the complex package of assistance for Ukraine that allow us to develop 13 mainstream areas and 40 sub-areas of provision of technical help to Ukraine. And now we and our colleagues, we should implement this program, and we will be able to use it. And also one more part in the complex package of assistance are 8 trust funds of NATO that cover a lot of our needs, starting modernization of command system, communication and command system. We have slides on this, but I won't take much time. If you have questions on each of the trust funds, we will be able to discuss this later. Trust fund on cyber defense and logistics and standardization, medical rehabilitation, Maybe you heard about it and know more about it. And retraining and social adaptation of servicemen and programs of professional development and new funds, trust funds concerning demining, because this is an acute issue. And maybe this will last tens of years, because experience of other countries show that it is long-lasting problem that maybe will exist at the line of confrontation in the territories controlled and not controlled by the state. And in the state budget, we know that the decision concerning 5% for defense and security, more than 3.5% for defense, and state contribute a lot in these areas, and the state reforms defense sector, create special forces, change the system of command and control, and we see that there is readiness of our partners to help us in this process. And at the moment we have about 2,000 servicemen who were trained by our partners at Yaversky Polygon, that is 4 battalion, and the 5th battalion is undergoing training. And also we create a center of special operation, and also Yaversky Polygon Center is created, so the work is ongoing in different areas. And we update professional training course, and NATO is ready to help us to develop this area. And also scientific programs in the framework of program that is called Partnership Science for Peace, it is called. Science for Peace program. North Atlantic Alliance provide us with support, and we also transfer to NATO standards. 1,250 standards of NATO are now introduced, and 60% of different provisions, and 15% of administrative, and 120 concerning weaponry, military equipment, communication facilities. And we work in each of these areas at the moment. About European integration, you know that the main driver of European integration for us were several principal plans, association agreement and the free trade agreement, political part of which was introduced 2 years ago, and from the 1st of January 2016, the free trade zone started to be active, and the plan of visa liberalization that created a situation that we made a lot of changes here in Ukraine that bring us closer to those procedures, those rules, and those laws according to which the EU countries function. Now we are at the stage of complex reorientation of regulations, and this is complex process that needs the cooperation of different agencies, and we are grateful for cooperation with the civil society, with Parliament. Of course, there are many legislative initiatives that are introduced by the government to the Parliament, and there are successes, and also there are a lot of challenges, because some draft laws are not reviewed. Some of them are just went through committees of first reading, but the process is difficult, and so they are yet to be adopted. So we need to include media and the cooperation of deputies, ministries, and civil society. The main achievements, several achievements during last year, important laws such as energy regulator, it should be implemented. Also, the system, the state procurement is introduced, and also the EU regulations concerning transparency of the worker companies and also equality in employment are also now corresponds European, is harmonized with European legislation, but there are many draft laws that need further active work and adoption at the level of the Verkhovna Rada, and then at the level of bylaws, at the level of the ministries and cabinet of ministers. And during 2016, together with EU, we adopted one of the most important for each citizen roadmap concerning implementation of the rights of the EU, concerning implementation of sanitary and phytosanitary rules and state procurement. Why it is so important? Because the implementation of this roadmap will provide broader access to the market of European Union and will protect our consumers, each citizen, concerning what we will consume, the products that are properly verified. And we will clearly understand that products produced in Ukraine, it has access not only to the markets of the European Union, but will have a carte blanche to other markets. And in 2017, we plan to coordinate the roadmaps with the EU concerning financial services, and it will yield results quickly. These are different spheres and different services, postal, IT services, and other services. So these roadmaps will be implemented, and that will change modus operandi in which we function and in which we cooperate with the European states. And speaking briefly about institutional area, in Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers, they reformatted the European Office to European and Euro-Atlantic integration, and we increased the number of we increased staff and also who will work on this office. It will be about 50 people. And reoriented the structural work of this office, and now the distribution of work will be done through a departmental principle, and the separate departments will deal with the financial help, for example, communication and Euro integration. And now also we have 100% of all governmental documents. They are checked by the office, and it is difficult because staff is lacking in this governmental office. That's why I would like to announce until the end of this week there will be additional contests to the governmental office on Euro integration, and I would like to ask those people who have proper knowledge, experience, and have motivation and wish to work in a state institution in order to reform the state and our rules and laws and instructions, and implement real change concerning European integration. So you can join the work We created governmental committee at the Cabinet of Ministers on European and Euro-Atlantic integration of cooperation on the regional development, in which the main key issues can be first discussed and then provided to the government. And when we carry out meetings with the ministries every 2 weeks, and we analyze the massive of all our applications and where we are at what stage in order to adopt decisions that will bring us to further realization of those our obligations in the areas we are lagging behind in implementation. And we also complete our work on electronic transparent system of monitoring of implementation of the association agreement, and I hope that it will be the instrument that will be good for all the officials and the ministries and the experts and the citizens when it will be implemented and used actively by all the ministries. And also we work with the parliament. We introduce such a mechanism of reminding our parliamentarians about the draft laws that are really of importance and concerning European integration. And I cannot say that we succeed every time to promote this, and we do not always efficiently work in this area, and but we motivate them to vote for the laws. So there is work, there is a dialogue in the framework of the committees, and work with the groups that are working in the parliament, and we are aimed at further cooperation with them. At the same time, it is not a secret that all our efforts we made to implement our obligations in the framework of association agreement, they are not always succeeded, and they were not always good apprehended by the EU part. And I would like to ask my colleague to tell us more about visa liberalization and what was done in order to have clear arguments that Ukraine implemented all its obligations in this area, and to, I would say, demand from the European partners to implement their part of the agreement. And also this delay with positive decision by the European Union, it creates possibility for discussion that is not quite positive inside Ukraine. So I would call on everyone that we should be a joint front to provide further implementation and realization of efficient work of all those instruments that we've launched, because we implemented this plan of visa liberalization, because these changes are needed for the citizens of Ukraine, and we should not search for treason inside the country, treason from the part of Europeans, but we should search for the opportunities for dialogue in order to get positive results. And also I would like to remind that the association agreement is now implemented in the regime, in the mode of temporary implementation and use, because we do not have full-fledged ratification by all the country members, and you know that there is problem, that it is not ratified by the Netherlands, and at the same time serious steps were made, and there was serious work to search compromise that is acceptable, I stress, acceptable for Ukraine and for the Netherlands, for the countries of the European Union, and This resulted in the decision of the European Council last week concerning the conditions that Netherlands will be ready to ratify this agreement and to complete the ratification of this agreement. And my colleague will tell you about this in more detail, but this declaration that was adopted by the European Council, it, in its essence, repeats the content of the association agreement. There is no specific novelties in this. It doesn't propose any major changes. So we should not see negative trends in this, because some experts, they try to find something negative in this, some negative trends. This is difficult political process, and I would like to thank our diplomats because they really contributed. They contributed their knowledge and expertise in order to achieve results that is acceptable for Ukraine, and I give the floor to Anna.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to start with greeting colleagues, diplomats, not only in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and diplomatic institutions abroad, but also those who are working in the government and parliament. They are diplomats, and just like civil society members, activists. This year was not easy, and the next year will be even more difficult, and I wish everyone inspiration and drive, otherwise we can't do something good without this drive. As concerns the association agreement, we hope that this year we would finalize with the year will end with finalization and ratification of the association agreement. However, the Netherlands referendum this autumn demonstrated certain negative trends inside of the EU, and they are not related to the EU, but they are related to the Eurosceptic trends inside the EU. This is the new challenge in the EU, the Euroscepticism, and the results of Brexit also demonstrate that inside of the EU, the European Union experienced certain problems, and now they could easily be seen. And the results of Netherlands referendum, they were negative, and they were unexpected even for the Netherlands government. So we and the Netherlands were to decide how to ensure the ratification, finalization of the ratification of the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement, and how to take account of the results of Netherlands referendum, and at the same time ratify the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement. We had the round of very difficult consultations. However, our opinions were not different so much. To my mind, what the heads of the member states of the EU already agreed on, this is most acceptable things. These are most acceptable things for all the countries. And yesterday, Mr. Rutte appeared and headed the meeting where every head of member state told their opinions concerning this association agreement. I think the procedure will end as early as January next year. According to yesterday's hearings, not only coalition members but also the Green Party, they also decided to support the association agreement with Ukraine. As concerns the decision itself, there are very many speculations, and I am concerned deeply that among experts we also do not have understanding what has happened, what is the document which has been adopted. So I will tell you now about the nature of this document. The nature of this document is about interpretation of the agreement, and the agreement has not been changed, it has not been modified at all, and it has been ratified by all member countries of the EU and the European Parliament. The agreement has not been changed. Please remember this. There are no reasons to tell that the Netherlands took European perspective out from Ukraine. No, European perspective depends on Ukraine, and it means Article 49 of the treaty on founding the European Union. So we can file our application to the EU. As concerns the association agreement, this is first of all political association and economic integration agreement, nothing else. And the EU in this association agreement considered the European inspiration of Ukraine. So the agreement itself doesn't provide Ukraine guarantees that Ukraine will become a member of the EU for sure. All other aspects in these decisions concerning financial assistance, they are also included in the association agreement, and they tell us what kind of assistance Ukraine can get. There are no limitations or restrictions imposed on the decisions, what kind of assistance we can get. They are not available there. So the latest decisions demonstrate that the EU has not changed its policy towards Ukraine as concerns military cooperation here. There are very many misunderstandings both in the EU and in Ukraine. There is no special policy. They didn't find mutual understanding, so Ukraine in the agreement decided to take part in security issues and in overcoming crisis situations. So we hope that this would be to our benefit. We will develop as a country which is capable to defend ourselves and to help others. And criteria of corruption, they are also reflected and set forth in the agreement. Mr. Rutte got many comments in the parliament yesterday that the decision has not corrected the agreements. This is also the indicator that the diplomats works well, and we have achieved our goals, and I believe that the ratification procedure will end next year very fast, and because this is now important case both for the Netherlands as well as other member countries of the EU. And the positive trend in this decision adopted by the EU member states, the main thing in the declaration that Ukraine has implemented all the conditions and is now eligible according to all criteria. This means that the process related to adoption of the final decision on approving the amendments to the EU protocol decide for providing visa-free mode to Ukrainian citizens, when it will be changed. I try not to name any dates because this is problematic issue. The Europeans try also. Juncker made a mistake recently. The procedure that has blocked the process, which defines the halting of visa-free regime, and some surprises which were unexpected. In Brussels, at the level of ambassadors, there were decisions setting forth that Ukraine really have implemented the conditions and they are ready for trialogue, but only when finally the decision will be adopted as to stopping of visa-free regime. Although the decision on halting visa-free regime has been halted, this was covered very much in mass media. I'm very thankful to Sergei Sidorenko, who very thoroughly helped us to understood what is the procedure. The things will take place in January next year, and everything will depend on how far this process will be, and I will try not to make focus. I believe that the implementation of the plan on visa-free regime, we needed it primarily, and this served the indicate the factor which drove very important and painful matters such as introduction of biometric passports and identification of citizens and launching new system of cards instead of Soviet type paper passports. So we introduced 2 lines of monitoring at the frontier and 2 systems of Interpol and Europol. Also we can and Eurojust. With Eurojust we also now have agreements. Since we could be criticized, but when we get back to the discussion of last year in the parliament and this year as to the new system on confiscation and seizure of property and establishing an agency for searching and seizing the assets, then we will see how long way we have already passed. And I was very proud at the eve of London Anti-Corruption Summit. By all aspects, Ukraine, by the criteria of establishing anti-corruption agencies, Ukraine is on the top. So we should be proud of our progress. Next year, I think we are entering the next year with good achievements, and without any claims to us, we have ensured the implementation of all the reforms, including electronic declarations of civil servants, and we should also tell about the EU delegation's report with positive rhetorics inside it, and it is about high positive evaluation of our reforms. They now think positively about our achievements, even when we think otherwise. So, as of the end of the year, despite of all factors, we continue with the EU sanctions against Russia, and this is also a rather positive result. Thank you, thank you. I am giving the floor to Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, Trade Representative of Ukraine, Nataliya Mykolska. Good afternoon. In fact, I would like to demonstrate you the slides on the results of our trade, even in the trade where we see increase. We try to find some reason. When we see such things, we demotivate ourselves. So let's talk about successes to inspire our citizens. Of course, criticizing is also needed, but on the background of the military aggression on the side of Ukraine, the export of goods to the EU countries increased. You can see this on this slide, and you also have the materials here in the audience. So we are talking about 9 months of this year. The exports of goods to EU is growing, and in fact, this demonstrates two things. The EU is one of our largest trade partners. It also says that our choice is correct, and that the growth in production, output, and exports to the EU is also observed despite of negative conjuncture, market conjuncture concerning steel and ore. When these market conditions will change, the growth will accelerate, and according the increase is most observed in the trade with Hungary and Romania and Poland. They are our neighboring countries. More than 10% of our exports go to the EU countries, and as concerns the wood and paper we export, more than 50%, talking about industrial goods, other. The exports grow more than by 50%, and in those industries where we get investment from the EU or third countries, the exports by these goods is far more faster. So many efforts are now focused on accelerating these investments. Our main basis of exports is raw materials or initially processed materials. So we should invest into processing and promoting the goods with higher value added. Talking about the main part, which is the exports of agro-industrial complex. So we can say that the more goods, more processed goods are exported now, their share is growing in our exports. So our agriculture is the main driver of our trend, and main reforms next year will be focused on harmonizing phytosanitary legislations with the EU requirements. Thus, our goods will automatically get availability, get access to the EU markets. Because now, when our legislation is not harmonized, our goods do not are inconsistent with the requirements of the EU legislation. So, as concerns the types of goods exported to the EU, the deliverers of goods such as railway equipment and rubber. These goods previously were exported to the Russian Federation market from Ukraine, and now they exported to the EU. There are some items such as butter, ice cream, turbines. The trade under these items, the exports increased multifold from 7 to 15 times. So our producers, they really have found their niches on the marketplace of the EU. We started to look at the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement from three-dimensional view and looking for some tools how to promote our goods to the EU marketplace. So we applied for membership in the Convention on Euromed, and this will provide us the opportunity to become links in the chain of value added. And we prepared the negotiations on the agreement on assessment of consistency of goods. According to the association agreement, this is the item on which Russian Federation wanted us to postpone the negotiations so that we do not harmonize our legislation in the aspect of sanitary regulations with the EU legislation, because this way we will really be capable to sell our goods in the European markets. We made preparations to help Ukraine to join with the electronic information technologies market for our high-tech information companies, and last our achievement, and I would like to thank and mention that this was the efforts of several ministries, our leaders of our government, and the president of Ukraine and MPs. This is the draft regulation of the EU to give Ukraine additional trade preferences. This regulation was published, and the customs duties will be cancelled, and this regulation is now pending in the European Parliament, and we have continuous communication with the European Parliament so that it is considered and voted by the European Council fast, and we will get additional access for Ukrainian goods to the European marketplaces. Application of these regulations will give us the opportunity to increase our exports by 1 $100,000 or $150,000. So as of today, the multiplier will be higher. We see the interest of European companies to invest in the industries where we got these additional trade preferences. Why this step is important? Maybe the scope is not so big as we thought about. Not all goods which we asked for are included in the scope, but this is a symbolic step that the association agreement in its trade section is the live tool. The EU, with our harmonized positions, when we provide reasons why our goods are really in demand on the European market. For me, as a trade representatives, for colleagues from other ministries, this is very important and symbolic step, and let's not look for some treason, and with the help of our colleagues, including mass media, let's press and lobby, and let's make some pressure on European parliamentarians so that they adopt this regulation as fast as possible, because every $1,000 exports is very important. $100,000 exports increase will give us growth in GDP by 0.1%. So, to finalize, I would like to greet our diplomats, our trade diplomats, mass media diplomats, because you journalists are also diplomats, all our colleagues in diaspora, because all of us are doing the same thing. So let's promote our achievements, our victories. Thank you, dear colleagues. I wish you every success next year. Next brief